So just quickly, before we go into it too much, who here's got solar or battery already at their house? So I recognise a few people. Solar, solar, solar. Okay. Battery, electric cars or... yeah, so tonight we were going to have Reclaim come in. We are going to have a guy called Peter come in, but unfortunately he had a death in the family, so he can't come in. Said, well, show must go on. So we whipped up a presentation and yeah, we'll just do it myself. But I think you're going to like it because it's not just based on Reclaim. We've got a bunch of information on Reclaim, but we've got a bunch of information just on heat pumps in general and the other heat pumps that are on the market as well. So you can get a feel for the whole range. It's not really biased to any particular brand. We'll talk a lot, probably about 4 brands that we talk about mostly, which are ones we work with, but we work with them because they're the best. That's basically the main reason. So yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, okay, so yeah, we're, can you guys see that all right? Yeah, so we're Lightning Energy. I'm sure a lot of you know of us already. So it's our mission to electrify Australia. We want to get everyone off the gas. We want to move. We're operating in Melbourne now. We've done a bit around Australia and then we pulled back because we wanted to focus on being really good in Melbourne. So we're doing that, and then yeah, when we've really made a dent on Melbourne, we'll start looking at other places. But yeah, for now, we just want to focus on the full electrification. So not just solar, but we're looking at heat pumps, air conditioning, electric car charging, home energy management systems, and everything we can do to integrate that to help you guys basically get off the grid. I don't like that term as such because we always recommend to stay connected to the grid just in case, but you're essentially off the grid if you go the full way with us. So that's what we recommend you do. So today we're going to talk about heat pumps. Obviously, that's what we all want to know about. It's been a big buzz the last nearly 2 years now it's been going. So we, yeah, they weren't really very popular until about 2 years ago. Then Solar Vic came in with a rebate and then it stacked with a couple other rebates. And now it's huge. It's a big business in Victoria. So yeah, I think everyone's going to get onto it. And it's really affordable as well. So what is a heat pump? It's basically like a reverse cycle air conditioner, or it's like a fridge in reverse. So it'll take the heat from the air outside and bring it through the condenser, blow it over a fan, and it has refrigerant inside, and then that's going to compress, and then it'll compress to get really cold, and then it will go to a gas. When it compresses, it converts to a gas, and then it goes really hot, and then it uses that to heat the air. So it's a really efficient way to heat hot water, much more than gas. And yeah, it's more efficient than instantaneous electric as well. So a lot of the old electric water heaters is just an element sitting in the water, and they just chew through power like nothing else. The good news is if you've got one of them, there's big rebates to get them out. So but heat pumps are definitely the most efficient way to heat your hot water. So there's a lot of reasons to do it. Obviously, getting off the gas, environmental, really efficient, and yeah, just, you know, it's good, it's cool tech. So here is a breakdown of a little bit of all the parts you can see. So the gas goes through here, and then we have a fan, so this is in the compressor, and then yeah, you can see the gas goes through here, compresses, goes up into hot gas through here, then comes out cold, back around, back through the evaporative coil, and does it again. So it's a closed loop system, and theoretically just runs forever. So there's not too much to it, realistically. So yeah, so it's basically a refrigerant cycle, the evaporation of the gas, compression of the gas, condensation, it expands back out, and yeah, it goes through, heats the hot water. So we can see here, this is an all-in-one unit. So we'll talk about the split units in a minute compared to the all-in-ones, but this is an all-in-one, which are really good if you just want to put it around the side of the house, if it's a smaller house and you don't have much space. So this is the compressor that's built on top of the tank. And we see cold water in the bottom, and then the hot water goes out the top. We've got a sacrificial anode in here. So that will corrode before anything else corrodes in the tank. And then, yeah, your refrigerant is just pumping around here. PTR valve as well on the side. That's always a good one to squirt water on yourself if you want to play with it.
Does that need to be replaced at any time?
Yeah, depends on the brand, but they recommend every 5 years and checking it every 1 to 2 years. So if you can take it out, some of them that you can take it out the side on an iStore heat pump, you can take it out the side and check it, and other ones come out through the top like this one, usually not with the compressor on it. So if there's a compressor to the side, so it might be a metre long rod, so you've got to make sure the tank is not too close to the eaves, because you want to pull this out the top, check it, and then put it back in. So that's something they recommend doing every 1 to 2 years. But it's, yeah, not a huge issue. Just something to be aware of. So the rebates for hot water are really good. So there's actually 3 rebates that you can get. So we have the federal rebate, the STCs. So if you're replacing a gas system, it's about $300. If you're replacing an instantaneous electric system, the resistive element, then you could get up to $1,200 rebate to replace that. But there's also VEEX, which is a state-based rebate as well. So that could be $700 to $800. It depends on a few variables, and I'll get into that in a sec. So that could be $700 to $800 from the state government. Probably, if it's gas, $300 from the federal government. And as of about 2 years ago, now there's a Solar Victoria hot water program, which is a $1,000 rebate from Solar Victoria as well. So it's about $2,000 worth of rebates that you can get. So, and yeah, when you stack them all together, it's a lot.
You only get rebates once, is that right?
STCs you can get a lot. Solar Vic you can only get once. VEEX you can get as many times as you want. That's a good question. So, yeah, these two theoretically, well, unless you reinstall, you'd have to reinstall another gas unit at your property and then wait, I think, 2 to 3 years to then replace it. So once you've gone from gas to electric, it's really hard, unless you're talking about going to a second property, in which case then you could. Solar Victoria can only do one. So this is where some people get stuck. When you buy a cheap heat pump, like a really cheap heat pump, and if that dies in 2 years and the company that sold you that heat pump isn't around to offer warranty service on it, then you have to go buy another heat pump in 2 years. You'll have to pay the full price because you won't be eligible for any of this. So you do have to get it right the first time. Everyone always says, oh, but what about the warranty? And it's like, have you seen, like, you know, builders and stuff companies go under all the time. It's a reality, unfortunately. So I always say the best thing is just to make sure you get good quality stuff, because yeah, you want to claim this once and then you don't want to have to do it again. Because yeah, on the same property, you can't convert from gas to electric twice. Once you're going from heat pump to heat pump, you're on your own. So just be aware of that. So the STCs, just for reference as well, it does vary on where you are in Australia. There's different zones. So these zones actually get a little bit more, but for us in Victoria, I've calculated the STCs that you're going to get based on some of the common heat pumps. So you're getting $600 to $800 actually. On the Haya 270, you can get, yeah, $800 in STCs, which is really good, but that's all based on being down here, so it's different around Australia. Now, there's Solar Victoria rebate of $1,000. You can get that there's a few conditions to get that. So you must be the owner of the property, so you could buy it for your tenants. If you're renting, you can't apply. You have to have a taxable household income of under $210,000 per year. So that's between, say, if there's 2 people living in the house, they go off the council rates. So if there's 2 people that's on the rates, add those incomes together, and that's how they get that number off the most recent tax return. So some people are clever, they have a high income and they only have one person on the council rates. Generally people with a high income do that for some reason. But yeah, so sometimes they can get under, but then, you know, if you're retired or whatever, then you're going to be well under 210. Property value has to be under 3 million. There are, well, yeah, between here and the city, there are a few of those. So that's just something to consider for that. Hot water system, no more than at least 3 years old that you're replacing. So if it was a brand new house, you would have to wait 3 years. So they're really looking to kind of just get rid of the older systems that are, you know, more than 3 years, that are just gas and inefficient and not doing any good for the environment. So the VEEKS rebate, now this is the one I said, if you're replacing gas, it's about $700, but if you're replacing instantaneous, it's about $1,200. So this is one that anyone is eligible for. There is the only condition is a minimum of $200. We don't have anything that cheap. So they didn't want people giving away free heat pumps because that was causing problems. Some companies were giving away stuff that was covered fully by the rebates, but it was still the cheapest stuff that you could get. So VEEKS is a good one. VEEKS, just so you know, VEEKS is interesting. I won't go into this too much, but it's good to know. The VEEKS rebate you get an amount of VEEKS, so you might get 20 to 40, you know, you might get 40 VEEKS or 30, 40 VEEKS around there. But it's actually the price of the VEEKS. So the VEEKS at the moment are $95, so they were $100. So the value of the VEEKS actually fluctuates like the stock market. So it can go up and down a little bit with time. So it's fairly high at the moment, but, well, it was high, but it's actually probably pretty much at its lowest it's been in the last 12 months, which is actually not good for us. We might have to adjust our pricing a little bit, but yeah, the VEEKS rebate does fluctuate with supply and demand because it's one of those things where they force energy retailers to buy it to offset their carbon emissions. So depending on the demand, it depends on the price that you're going to get for the VEEKS. So we do all that on the back end, but just so you know, that does fluctuate a bit. That's why with the rebates, they vary, especially the STCs, they vary a little bit between each unit as well. So I try and say this is what it's going to be, but the reality is it does fluctuate a little bit. So here is a typical quote that you could get for, this is an iStore heat pump. So yeah, basically here we've got 23 STCs, $37 an STC. That price can fluctuate as well. This would have been 60 VEEKS at $600, $1,000 rebate. So the upfront price for this could be $2,500. So that's most quotes you'll see laid out like that. So you have the total price. So this is $4,950, and then less that, less that, less that. So the total price you would pay would be $2,500. So if you don't go with us and you go with another company, just make sure that they've calculated all that correctly, because some people do shifty stuff with the invoices and GST and stuff and try and pocket differences. So the brands of heat pumps. Now, I've taken this off Solar Quotes. This was their graph that was quite good, but I think they've taken it off Product Review, which is hilarious. So we're all just sharing stuff around. But yeah, you can see they haven't really bothered with the cheap brands, but this is based on how many reviews as well. So expensive, poor score. I mean, Quantum, Stiebel Eltron's okay, Sandon's okay. But the best brands that Solar Quotes have recommended, well, and Product Review and us as well, is Reclaim, Haya, we like iStore, Ream. We don't really work with those, but I mean, I'm sure they're all pretty good. But if you stick up this end, you should be fine. This expensive but poor score Quantum, I don't know many people that do that. So I would say, personally, I would go with something that's got a lot of reviews. So yeah, your Reclaims, Hayas and all that. even these Evo Heats, Aquatech. I think that's actually a fairly cheap one. I'm surprised that got there. It was cheap and good. Is anyone considering any specific brands so far? Is anyone, you guys are all just feeling out what's on the market? Okay. So yeah, top rated as of this was actually, so from Solar Quotes, was actually Haya. Haya's interesting. They're a company, they're not owned by Fisher & Paykel, they own Fisher & Paykel. So they're huge. Reclaim is an Australian company, so they're number 2. They're based in Byron Bay, but they've got people that work around Melbourne, and yeah, I think they're getting compressors made in Japan from Panasonic, and yeah, they've got a really good reputation as being the best at the moment. So yeah, the other ones, installer preferences, installers like iStore. iStore is good. It's just like a good one-size-fits-all kind of unit, and it's fairly affordable as well. So we worked a lot with iStore. They're based in Perth as well, by the way. So we've got some of these you can have a look at after. So we've got a Reclaim, iStore, a Haya, and Napricus. So you can have a look there and see what they're going to be like around the side of your house. So one of the questions we get a lot with heat pumps is the recovery rate. So once it's depleted all the water, how fast can it actually reheat that water? So the Reclaim is the fastest at 110 litres an hour. Evo Heat, 89 litres an hour. So iStore, 80 litres an hour. So it might be, keep in mind and say iStore is a 270 litre tank, so that's going to take a couple hours to heat up. Reclaim has different tank sizes, so it could be 315 litres, so that would take from stone cold to hot would take 3 hours. So that's pretty good, especially pretty rare that you would get your hot water tank down to, ambient temperature, because that's a lot of water to use in a short amount of time. And generally, as soon as it cools down, thermostat will kick in and it'll just start to heat back up again. So it's like an air conditioner. It'll just, as soon as the room drops below 18 degrees or whatever you set it, it'll heat back up. Unless you've got it on a timer to not heat at a specific time of day, which some people do to save power, because you don't necessarily need to have it running 24 hours a day. You can sometimes get away with just having it run 12 hours a day. Usually when the sun is up, and if you've got solar, then the solar is, the heat pump will soak up the energy from the solar, and then you'll be heating it for free. And if you've got an off-peak tariff at night, maybe between 12 and 3, then you can heat your hot water between those hours as well. So the recovery rate is, look, if you're up this end, you're doing all right. If you're down here with an Emerald, 58 litres an hour, you might have problems.
Just on Haya, it's not on that list. Why is that? It's one of the recommended.
Good question. Good question. I have some more information on Haya coming up. So I'll see. Do you want to know the recovery rate?
Oh, look, it's just general information.
Okay.
No, I just know it's not on that list, but on your previous slide, it was up one of the top recommended.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I missed this slide. Yeah, the top recommended. Yeah, it is. Which is surprising because I think the heat pump only came out about a year ago. They do a lot of other products. They do a lot of other cooktops and stuff. As I said, they own Fisher & Paykel, so they know what they're doing. But yeah, it's fairly affordable as well. So I was surprised. We sell Haya and it seems like a really solid product, but I was expecting it to come in a bit more around the iStore. And they're like, no, it's right up here. Okay, it's priced the same as the iStore, so must be a good deal. But yeah, we've done quite a lot of Hayas. We haven't had any issues, so I'll see if I can get the recovery rate for that.
It's more expensive without rebates. So you get more rebates.
It's eligible for bigger rebates because it's more efficient.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Compared to iStore, Hayas are more expensive products, but after rebates, it's kind of about the same price.
Yeah, the product itself is more expensive, but it's eligible for more rebates because it's more efficient, so the cost is actually about the same as an iStore. Which, I don't know if anyone's in My Efficient Electric Home, the Facebook group, everyone raves about iStore. It's They go crazy for it. They love it. But they've done really well. Like they were originally, iStore is a sister company with, I want to say sister company, I think they're technically the same ABN company called Solar Gain, that they were solar retailer. They don't do much solar retailing anymore, but they started in Perth and they were doing solar retailing in Perth, and then they expanded and they set up a dealer network around Australia. And then they realized that there was more money in wholesale and heat pumps. So then they scaled back their solar business. They basically did what we did. They scaled that back and then they focused on heat pumps and distribution to guys like us. So they're a bunch of good guys that run from Perth. So yeah, you kind of got Perth here, Byron Bay here, China, but yeah, but it's good.
Sorry, the
Yeah.
recovery rate, is that independent of the ambient temperatures going through the compressor? Like, does that, if it's cold or hot outside, the air going through the compressor, does that impact on the recovery rate or not?
I'd assume that would be from ambient temperature. They haven't said what temperature they ran the tests at, which is a very good point. But look, it is going to, if it's colder, it's going to take a bit longer. But I would assume that that would have been, I don't know, maybe from 15, wouldn't have been more, you wouldn't test it at more than 20 degrees. So yeah, if it is colder, it does take a little bit longer and the unit does have to work a little bit harder. It's one of those things that more is better in regards to if you're wanting a unit that's more efficient and more powerful. Well, it's like a car, you know. I always say with cars, I don't know, maybe it's just me, no one ever complains about a car being too fast. It's just like, just got the extra power, I don't really use it. Maybe I wasted the money, but yeah, it's better to have a more powerful unit. Yeah, so this is just a bit of a pricing guide so you can kind of see where things sit as well. I've got some more pricing at the end. So you see, iStore is, this was just off Solar Quotes. We're actually a little bit cheaper than that. But yeah, so your iStore is, you know, $2,500, and then your Reclaim's could be $5,500, $6,000. So Reclaim, or even Sandon's more expensive, and Sandon's not even rated that highly. Reclaim is the best. It's more expensive than iStore, but it's a lot more efficient. It's got a better coefficient of power. It's more powerful in general, better build quality, and a lot quieter. So it's definitely worth the extra money, but you know, it just depends what you guys are looking for. Otherwise, like something down here does a really good job as well, but I probably steer away from the bottom end. Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about that when you should look at when you're looking at the heat pumps, just to compare, is the coefficient of performance. So that's how much power you get out of it, or how much hot water you get out of it compared to what you put into it. So what that means is if you put 1 kilowatt of electricity into it, it will generate 3 kilowatts of heat output out of it, if this is COP 3. So the higher the COP rating, the more power it gets out. So the Reclaim, I think, is 5.5 kilowatts, so a COP 5.5. So if you put 1 kilowatt of power in, you get 5.5 kilowatts of energy out. So because its COP is so high, it's much more efficient. So yeah, we're looking to get the COP rating up as much as we can. Yeah, and it's better because you think if you're generating 3 or 4 or 5 kilowatts out of heat out of 1 kilowatt of electricity, if you were using gas, it's kind of like, or even an instantaneous electric heater, it would be a 1-for-1. So you would need 4 kilowatts of energy to generate 4 kilowatts of heat, which is going to be a lot more inefficient. So definitely check the COP ratings of the heat pumps. So the next question is, what size do you need for your house? So there's everything from 150 to 180 litre heat pumps. Now that's more like a unit, 2 people max, I would say, for a smaller one. To be honest, we very rarely even sell or install 180 litres because the price difference generally between a 180 litre and a 270 litre is often like $200. So it makes sense just, you know, for the same reason I was saying before, it makes sense just to have a little bit more. Then, you know, if you have people come around for whatever reason, you're not going to run out of hot water. So the standard like 270 litre that we sell is about 3 to 4 people. So yeah, 200 to 315, 3 to 5 people. So 315 is where your reclaims start and they go up 400 litre and you can go up from there. But yeah, 315 to 400 litres, 6 people. So your standard all-in-ones generally are 270. So that's your go-to size for most people. For a house of 4 people, at a push 5, but yeah, if you're going 5, I'd probably say 300. But yeah, so that's just something that you want to consider, or at least make sure you get the right advice on when you're buying a heat pump. So split tank versus an all-in-one. So here's your reclaim. This is a split unit, so the tank is separate to the compressor, and then we plumb the pipes between. This is a controller, goes up on the wall, and then this is your standard all-in-one unit. Now, the all-in-one units are really popular, particularly with plumbers and electricians. They love them because they are super easy to install. Now, that's not necessarily a reason to get it, so because there are some downsides. And one of the downsides is because the compressor is on the top, it's more compact. And because it's more compact, it makes more noise. So they're generally not quite as efficient and they're generally a little bit noisier. They're not too bad, I think about 45 decibels, but they can be a little bit noisier. So if you have, there are cheaper split units on the market. Generally, they're a little bit more expensive. If you have the budget and you have the space around the side of your house, the split unit is definitely the go because they're more quiet. They're quieter and they're more efficient. So, yeah, a bit trickier to install though. Sacrificial anode you asked about before. So here's what they look like when they go in. Here's what they look like after 5 years. So you should be able to check them yourself. If you just turn off the water and then release the pressure, then you can take the anode out of the top or the side. If you're not sure, let us know. But yeah, probably every 2 years, I would say you'd be right to check that. So that's just there to absorb any impurities in the water and make sure that that corrodes before anything else. Yeah, ice store typically every 2 to 5 years. Reclaim 12 to 18 months, they reckon, check. Replacement every 3 to 5 years. I think if the water quality is good, you should get 5 years.
What do they cost to replace?
Good question. I think about $200. Refrigerants. This is something. Oh, look, you don't need to know, but the difference is, this one you don't need to know as much about because this one's actually been banned, the R134A. So they're not allowed to put that in anymore. SolarVic basically banned it for everyone. So it wasn't, the global warming potential of that was too high. So they said everyone's got to move over to the next one. So the next best thing, or the better refrigerant, is propane, R290. That has a low global warming potential. It is flammable. It's highly unlikely that it will catch on fire, but theoretically, if you put a flame to it, it would. And then that leads me to the next one is, so the top of the range heat pumps have CO2, so carbon dioxide, which is R744. That's your reclaims, and yeah, CO2 is much better for the environment. It's not flammable. Really, yeah, pressurizes really well. So these are your options here. This one is done as of July last year. We're not working with that anymore. But yeah, your main options is propane or carbon dioxide. That's the difference between a good heat pump and a great heat pump. So what's the difference between all levels of heat pumps, everything from cheap right through to mid-range and premium? The number one difference is the efficiency that you're going to get out of the heat pump. So they might all do the same output, but some are going to work a lot harder to do it, particularly the cheap ones. They're going to use a lot more energy, so it's going to be just wasted power. So you'd rather not do that. The next thing is the noise. Obviously, it's almost like the cheaper the heat pump, the noisier it is, as a general rule. But the more expensive ones, like the Reclaim, are very quiet, and iStore is kind of in the middle. So that's at 45 decibels. I think this is 37 decibels around there. The next factor is obviously the sizing, which we've talked about, and the warranty. You want to check the warranty because sometimes they will have different warranties for the tank and the compressor, and sometimes not for the parts, and you want to check the warranties around the anodes as well. What happens if you forget to change that? And the last thing to consider is, as we discussed, the refrigerant. So yeah, propane or CO2. So when you do get a heat pump installed, you want to look for, these are some things you want to look for to make sure it's a good job. So I see a lot of these online. Every installation gets posted online now. It's quite funny. But you want to make sure it's level. You want to make sure it's on a nice concrete slab. So if you do have dirt around the side of the house and you want to put the heat pump there, then, you know, if we're doing it, let us know. We can make sure we've got a concrete slab. You don't want to be doing anything like this to hold it up. It's a bit dodgy. So this is the next thing you want to look for if you're getting a heat pump installed by someone and you're not sure about them. They want to make sure that all this piping is lagged here. We want to make sure if you pull this that it squirts down, not up in your face. That looks like that's going to squirt in the face. These are meant to be covered right up to the valves here, right up to the nuts. So here's an example where they've done it right. Gone right up to the joins with this lagging, because all of the hot water pipes need to be insulated as per the regulations. So you don't want it anywhere where you can come out and touch it, a kid or a dog, because that is going to get quite hot. So we want to be careful that that's done correctly, but your plumber should handle all that. It shouldn't be an issue that you have to attend to, but sometimes it is. Unfortunately, there's some plumbers out there that don't quite get it yet. So the other thing you want to look out for is cables. So when it's installed, you want to make sure the cabling is done up nice and neat and secured so it doesn't pull anything off the wall. This drain pipe here, that's good how they've done it. The drain pipe has to run away from the building in a way that's not going to cause any damage to the building, or it's not going to stain the pavers. So you couldn't run it straight onto these pavers. Technically, if there was a garden bed back behind there, you might be able to run the drain pipe into the garden bed because there is a bit of condensation that's going to go out there. But it's got to be visible to the homeowner. Here is ideal if you can get it. It's usually something around. It's just got to be an opening here as well if it's going into the pipes there, so you can actually see it dripping through. So that's some things you want to look for. Airflow is another common defect that we see, so this is no good. Obviously, for it to bring air in from outside and blow it across the fan, then it's got to suck the air in from somewhere, so it's no use having it right up against a wall. We've got to have enough airflow going in and out so we can really get the heat from outside, blow it over the coil and bring the heat into the hot water. It's a nice inverter there as well, solar edge. And there, yeah, that's a nice install there. I like, actually, they've, yeah, gone all around. They've gone all out with that one. So switchboards is another thing that you want to be careful of. I actually don't see too many boards like this around anymore, but there are some switchboards that still look like this, and this is what you end up with if you try and overload the switchboard with the old ceramic fuses. So heat pumps generally don't pull too much power, so at times, maybe a couple of years ago, we would have entertained just slapping one of these on, but now we're pretty much done with that. And it's, if your switchboard looks like this and you want to start adding to it, particularly if you want to electrify your home with solar, batteries, and your electric car is a huge load. If you want to start doing that stuff, it's really important that you upgrade the switchboard. So something like that is what we're looking for. It's good if you've got some extra space. We can run a circuit to the heat pump, and then we can just put one circuit here for the heat pump. It's all nice and clean. We're not going to have any issues. So the Reclaim heat pump comes in a few different sizes and different types of tanks. So here, yeah, we can see we've got the COP of the heat pump is 4.8 to 5. So 1 kilowatt in is 5 kilowatts of heat energy out, which is really good. Max water temp is 60 degrees. This will work anywhere between minus 10 degrees and 40 degrees. So does anyone live anywhere where the temperature gets outside those parameters? We're pretty good.
What happens above 40 degrees? Just doesn't.
You already got hot water, ambient temperature. I think if it goes over 40 degrees, you don't need to heat the water. But yeah, heating time, so 3 hours, yeah, 2 to 3 cycles a day. CO2. So yeah, look, Reclaim's really the best. It's kind of like the Rolls Royce when it comes to heat pumps, if you're into Rolls Royces. I don't like saying that because sometimes when you describe products as a Rolls Royce, people go, oh, I don't need a Rolls Royce, I'm fine with a Toyota. And oh, well, you know, this is what you want.
Do some of these heat pumps have Wi-Fi?
Yeah, yeah.
So in which case, if you go on holidays or anything, you can just basically turn it off from the Wi-Fi?
This one actually has Wi-Fi, yeah. So my next, no, you're right, you're right. I knew, I was thinking in my head, what are they going to ask? What are they going to ask? Wi-Fi. Yeah, so this one has Wi-Fi. Most of the units have Wi-Fi. I think the iStore unit does actually connect with their app. I'm not sure how good the iStore one is, but if you want Wi-Fi, Reclaim is the best. So it has a whole bunch of different modes. Smart control, one-shot boost. So if you run out of hot water, you can boost it. Holiday mode, you can turn it off when you're not there. Has a cycle to get rid of Legionnaires. So once a week, I think it does a really hot cycle to clean out the tank. So all those controls can be done by the app. And that's the Reclaim app there.
What about the other models? Do they have something similar like that?
Most of them do. I think, would you say the iStore one, is that good, Kale? Have
iStore doesn't actually have Wi-Fi. You've got to actually bring on a part of, they've got that village monitoring control. And that's
It's through the village.
Yeah, you make a full ecosystem with a iStore, solar inverter and battery. And you connect it that way, otherwise the iStore just work off the general time. Otherwise everything else that we've got has got Wi-Fi app control.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, I was watching a video Finn Peacock from Solar Quotes did on heat pumps today, and he goes, oh, don't overthink it with your controllers, there's no need. Heat pumps use so little power, it doesn't matter. And that's what I've always kind of said as well, and he's right, because the iStores that we've installed, no one ever sets up the Wi-Fi with them. That's why I'm like, does it even have it? Because no one ever sets it up, because they use so little power, you just set it to run during the day, and then if most of our customers already have solar, so they're already producing 5, 6, 7 kilowatts of solar, and then the heat pump's using 1 kilowatt. So it's hardly anything. So they're using it for free anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much about having all these crazy settings, because at the end of the day, it just doesn't make much of a difference in the bill. But yeah, so with the Reclaim, I just wanted to touch on as well the different tanks. There's different price points as well. So the glass line is I would say the entry level, but it's not really. It's still pretty high. And then stainless steel is above that. So stainless steel is going to be much better. Marine grade stainless steel. It's what's that?
I was saying the stainless steel doesn't have an anode, so you don't have to change it.
Yeah. So the stainless steel, that's one of the things. It doesn't have an anode, so you don't have to worry about changing the anode. So it's a little bit better. It's about $1,000 more to go stainless steel over glass line. So yeah, no anode needed, yeah. And then glass line, anode needed. A little bit more maintenance, but stainless steel is going to be better, particularly if you're concerned about the water quality in your area. But yeah, there's the two options there. They also have a different compressor. Reclaim have 2 standard compressors, and then they have a compressor that's made by Panasonic as well. So they partnered with them, so you can get the Panasonic compressor, which is made in Japan. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Japanese invented heat pumps or reverse cycle air conditionings, or they were at the forefront of it. They know what they're doing. So that's the Wi-Fi. Yeah. So yeah, the reclaim, just so while we're on topic, it's about $5,000 to $6,000. There's a few variables. That's depending between glass line or stainless steel as well. So the Haya, as I said, Haya, the company that own Fisher & Paykel, they actually sponsored the Australian Open this year. So they've got money apparently, which is good to know when you're worried about the warranty. Sometimes smaller companies, you go, are they, you know, even is the manufacturer even going to be around in 2 or 3 years? Well, I think Haya will be. So that comes, they have a split unit as well, but predominantly we're just using the all-in-one, 270 litre, 4 to 6 people, propane refrigerant, global warming potential of 3, COP 4.5 at a push. So 1 kilowatt in is 4.5 kilowatts out. So that's a lot of heat energy, particularly if you can generate that energy on your roof for free with solar. What some people do is they actually call heat pumps a little bit like a battery, because they can store their energy. If they don't have a battery on their solar system, they can send the energy from the solar system and they can store that energy in their hot water for when they need it. So it's kind of like a battery. It works on the same principle of the energy comes from the roof, and instead of getting stored in the lithium, it gets stored in the water. And then you bring it out as you need it. So it is good if you've got solar and you've got extra energy and you don't know where to put it, you just get a heat pump and then you funnel some energy into that. So this Haya one's pretty quiet, 43 decibels, which is very, very quiet. 7-year warranty on the tank, 5 years on the parts and labour. So the reclaim was a 10-year warranty all round, by the way, so this is not quite as good, but it's also half the price, so it's a trade-off. But yeah, we've got a Smart HQ. I don't have a screenshot of the app of this one, but this has an app as well, which is quite good. So all different operating modes. 80% less energy than an electric resistant heater. So here we've got the iStore. iStore, 270 litres. It's probably, besides the reclaim, this is probably our favourite. I actually think the Haya's a little bit better, but I've got a soft spot for the iStore because we've done so many of them. We've done, I don't know, probably 1,000 of them, and I'm scratching my head to even think of a time we've had an issue, maybe one. And they were pretty good. We've got a really good relationship with iStore, so we can get the issues sorted straight away. Propane, refrigerant, so not CO2, but still pretty good. Coefficient 4.8, so that's really good as well. 48 decibels of noise, so a little bit louder. I have found with this one, if you put your head next to it, you know about it, if you stand near it, but you know, that's only if you're outside. If you're inside, you shouldn't hear it. So yeah, 3 to 4 hours to refill the tank from cold. Operating range, so this only goes down to -5, but -5 is still pretty good, even in the hills. Not getting below that, I don't think. The last one, this is actually another favourite of ours, just because a lot of people go for it, because it's our most affordable heat pump that we offer. But this is Apricus. Now, Apricus is actually a sister company of Reclaim. So Reclaim were doing really well with their premium hot water unit, but they decided that they were just missing out on too much of the market because $6,000 is just too expensive for a lot of people. So they partnered with Apricus and they brought out this unit, which is, yeah, about $1,700 installed. So it's a lot more economical. Still pretty good specs. 48 dB, so similar to the iStore. I think the compressor, 2 kilowatt compressor, so it's not as power. Booster compressor, power output 2. It's about the same, oh there you go, so it's exactly the same as the iStore. So yeah, same power as the iStore. Yeah, 5-year warranty, 5-year on the anodes and the valves. So I'm just thinking, it pretty much matches the iStore on nearly all the specs, side to side actually. Well, there you go. But yeah, we've done a lot of Apricus as well, and we haven't had any issues with them.
Does it have a display module?
I don't think Apricus has an app. It does?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Oh.
It's actually probably easier to use the app with Apricus because their screen is actually hidden on the top of the unit, and you've got to use a screwdriver to open it. So yeah, it's a little bit easier if you use the app. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Do they have a split system as well?
No, so Apricus, their split system is the Reclaim, basically.
Okay.
So
And the other one, iStore?
iStore don't. iStore just have one product, the 270 litre, and that's it. And they say that if you need more, you can have two. So you can actually parallel them together. So that's their solution if you want more, which can be done. So it's not a bad solution. I kind of think if you need more, you might just go to Reclaim, get a 400 litre tank, to be honest. Because look, personally, it's not something that you want to cut corners on. Like there are definitely cheaper products again than what I've shown you today, but I wouldn't recommend it because unfortunately, when on a cold day when they die and you have issues, and then all of a sudden you don't have any hot water, it's really annoying, and you need to call a plumber to come round, and the plumber's busy for 3 or 4 days, and then that's a long time to be going without hot water, particularly if you've got a family. So you just don't really want to have that happen, so you'd rather just stick to something that's a little bit more premium. But unfortunately, there are a lot of really cheap hot water units out there in the market because of the way the rebates are structured. Is they can get some dirt cheap units and be giving them away for a couple $100, and people don't care because they're like, whatever, it's $500, just do it. And then, yeah, the horror continues after that. So,
Just one more question. Can
yeah.
there be a distance between the two systems through the heat pump and the water?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, the Reclaim you can go about 10 to 15 metres away from the compressor to the tank. So I know we did a video on it once. I was reckon it was 15 metres off the top of my head. It does seem like a long way, but I mean, it's just pipes here. We can top it up with more refrigerant as well. So, but yeah, generally it's better to have them in the same spot though. But yeah, so there's iStore, Apricus. So that's basically our range of what we recommend for heat pumps. Like I said, there's a few variations with the Reclaim. Haya is probably next in line, iStore, and then Apricus. So that's your kind of price point, $1,700 to $2,500, and then could be for stainless steel, 400 litre, could be anything up to 7,000 at the top end. Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
I see on your website you also have Emerald.
Yeah, we do.
Is that one the cheaper one that you recommend? You were saying earlier, is that?
We used to install Emerald.
We worked with Emerald for a little bit. We had a few issues. I don't know. They're one of those companies, I don't want to say anything bad about them because I know everyone in the industry. They come down here and they have meetings with me and stuff. And they say, oh, yeah, how's it going? Oh, do you want to sell our stuff? I go, oh, yeah, maybe. How you guys going? I don't know. I'm just not 100% convinced. Like we worked with them for a bit. We put a few in and we had a few minor issues and they got sorted. But we just decided that we didn't want to work with them at this point in time. We may well in future. They are talking about some interesting stuff of some air conditioning units that can actually replace gas ducted systems using the existing ductwork, which is something not many people have. So if you've got a gas ducted system under the floor for heating, you can just swap out the gas unit and then put the refrigerant unit in so to heat and cool using the existing ducts. So I'm interested in that from Emerald, but yeah, their heat pump is okay, but yeah, we just decided that it was not for us at this point in time. It might be a bit better. Yeah, but look, that's pretty much all I had to run you guys through. So if we have any questions, let me know. Yes, another one.
So I just had a couple of weeks ago my solar edge system installed by you guys,
Yep.
and I see that they do. So I haven't got the battery yet.
Yeah.
Inverter and trainer panels.
Yep.
I see that they do a hot water diverter.
They do.
That goes to an electric resistive hot water system.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I choose a heat pump as opposed to a standard hot water system and get one of those?
Do you have a instantaneous?
I've got gas at the moment. So
Okay.
I've a very old gas system. So what would be the advantage of that approach, considering I've already got a solar edge inverter, the solar edge hot water divert energy, whatever they call it, compared to
Yeah. I know what you're saying. It's an interesting question. I've pondered this myself. If you've got the energy, why not divert it to an appliance that uses it? So if an electric resistance hot water unit is using a lot of power, say it's using 3 or 4 kilowatts, but you've got a 12 kilowatts solar system on the roof, you're generating so much power, you don't really care. Well, that's fine if you want to do that. However, I think, wouldn't you rather not use that power at all? You're going, oh, I've kind of got it for free, so yeah, we might as well put it into there. Okay, that's fine. That's a good solution. But if you go for a heat pump, then you're using less power, which actually frees up more. So you've got more excess that you could, you've got more excess for other stuff, which might be feeding it back to the grid for stuff all. So you could throw that argument out. And I would accept that's a reasonable argument. But if you've got a battery, you might look into a different energy plan like Amber. So if you sign up to Amber, you could get money for feeding back to the grid at certain times. Because I don't know how much you guys know about Amber. That might be a different discussion again. But Amber treats energy a bit like the wholesale market, or the wholesale market of energy, a bit like the stock market. So it'll buy and sell energy at certain times. So if you've got a battery, instead of diverting that power into a resistive hot water tank, you could divert that power into a battery, store it, and when the energy price is high, you can sell it back to the grid for a profit. Or if you get an electric car, then you've got more power to put into the car. So it's not a bad way of doing it. If someone says they want to do that, we're like, okay, that's fine. But I think heat pumps are better. I think it's better to use less power where possible, and then you've got excess to do other things. Because things always come up. People just keep using more and more power. Questions? Yeah?
Yep. I've got solar hot water with a gas backup. And we've got solar panels, so our gas bill in total is about $90 every couple of months. I'm finding it hard to justify throwing the gas out because the system all works. But we read about gas running out in Victoria, so should you do it? But I just can't see a financial justification for doing that. Am I thinking it wrong?
So what do you spend? $90 every 3 months.
Yeah.
It's pretty low. Do you have solar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I would say is that $90 every 3 months, $270 a year could be basically nothing if you had this. Look, you'd have to look at the cost, and yes, everyone says they want to get off the gas, but sometimes if you're using so little gas anyway, it's is one person going to make a difference? Is that it's not going to send the globe up 1 degree, and if your bill was so low, then maybe it's not worth considering. But if your gas unit's working fine, but I mean most of these gas units last 10 years, maybe a bit more.
I'm on the 10 years.
Okay. Well, then I would say, do you want to replace it now at a time that's convenient to you, or do you want to wait till it dies and then you have to scramble to try and find someone? Oh, I don't even know which one I want. So sometimes it's better to replace things on your terms rather than wait for them to break and deal with the chaos. But yeah, I think it's one of those things, like you might not have to rush into it, but it's something I think you've got to do anyway, eventually.
If you put in a heat pump, does it mean that the solar hot water panels, you don't use them?
Yeah, we disconnect that. Most of them, we disconnect that. Most of those solar hot water panels don't even work. They break in the first 2 years and nobody even knows because they're not hooked up to anything, like digitally. So a lot of them, like they're burnt out, they've stopped working. They do very little.
Now gas backup doesn't run very much at all, so it must be working.
Must be doing something. Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe just see how you go. It's one of those things. If it's working fine, I am inclined to say, look, if things are working fine and you're not using too much, if you were spending $1,000 a year on gas, it would be a different story. But if you're only spending $200 or $300 on gas, then yeah, maybe stretch it out for another year or two.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Any other questions?
So when you guys do installs, do you get rid of all the gas plumbing? Because it's a gas plumber's job, do you guys do everything? Like it was a gas hot water service and we replaced it with one of these, would you do everything?
Yeah, so we disconnect all the pipes that go into the existing instantaneous heater and then we'll just cap it off. So yeah, we cap it off at the wall and then yeah, we then run the cold water into this and then hot water out, so just cap off the gas. It's not a huge job to cap off the gas. I mean, the whole installation of a heat pump is not a massive job. It's only realistically 2 to 3 hours. A plumber and a sparky come out. Yeah, usually, ideally at the same time, if we can time it right, and yeah, put it in, and then that's it, and no more gas bill. Yeah.
Will the plumber would have a refrigeration handling license or?
Yeah. For this, yeah. Yeah.
Does the units have inverters or just a straight on and off system?
Well, there's an inverter here and then the inverter's at the top, so it does kick in and out depending on the temperature of the water. So there's a temperature sensor there. But then it overrides with a timer as well, so you can set the timer. So if you don't want it to run at night, maybe because it's too close to a bedroom and you just don't want to risk the noise, you can set it to not run between specific hours, or if you have different tariffs where you pay different amounts at different times.
I do understand that the system would have a PC boards built in.
Yeah.
Right? But in order to start the compressor, would it rev to a certain RPMs rather than full on 100%?
I get what you're saying.
I suppose the reclaim pump, heat pump that you're showing in there, they would have inverter, but the other ones...
It's like a variable speed drive.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question.
That's what makes it efficient on split air conditioners, the inverters.
Yeah.
And I just wonder whether that would actually fit on those units as well.
That's a good one. Kale, do you know that one?
Depending on each unit, realistically.
Yeah.
You'll see that some units will have different power output and different, basically, RPM to the inverter range. But it really depends on what unit, because some units like iStore is pretty much like a flat 700 watts it's going to work at, and then whatever RPM that's going to be with the inverter system. But then there's like high air as well. High air can range and fluctuate between different amounts. And same with reclaim as well. Some of them you can also put on like what they call a silent mode, which does ramp down the RPM of the actual compressor and condenser itself. But obviously then it just means it's going to take longer to get off.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident that they do ramp up and down, but I'm just you've got me thinking now, second guessing myself. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah?
Our gas hot water is in the middle of the house.
Yeah.
On the lower floor, on the ground floor. So that's why I was asking about the split system. Can it be separated? Can the tank go internally in the house and have the
That
pump outside?
can definitely happen. Yeah, we can put the tank inside and then the compressor outside. It's just going to be the pipe runs in between that might be challenging, but yeah, we can put the compressor outside and the tank inside, definitely. That's the beauty of the split tanks, is yeah, we could do that. I know iStore we cannot hire, I don't think so. Pretty much we can't put the compressor inside. So these with the built-in compressor, but this just a tank, that can go anywhere. Any more questions? Awesome, all right, thanks guys.